what is most important is for you to tell your story, for you to actually be able to voice your issues, because it doesn't mean anything from me who sits here in an office or gets to go out on the farm. It means everything for you, the actual farmer. That's your bank statements that hurt at the end of the day. That's your farm that's hurt at the end of the day. If the farm bill doesn't get passed, or if policy doesn't help the farmer at the end of the day. It's not as believable coming from me.
Correct. And I think that's one thing that really turned me on about this job is uplifting that voice of Louisiana agriculture. And these are our people. This is our home. This is what we do. We need food. That's what the bottom line is. We are producers, and we love our farms. And to be a part of that and to uplift these voices and have their voices heard, not only on the state level, but on the national level, is something that's very important, especially getting policy reform and getting things done.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Louisiana Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Carl Wiggers, and today I've got half of the Commodity and Public Policy Department here at Louisiana Farm Bureau. I've got Madison Plaisance and our newest member, Matthew Waguespack. Welcome, Matthew. We're going to introduce you more later on, but thank you for being on the podcast today.
No problem.
I know I kind of sprung it on you this morning. It's your first week on the job, so we've just jumped in and we're trying to immerse you as best we can.
Y'all are doing a good job at it.
Well, first, let's start, Madison. This is, I think, your second podcast, right?
Yeah. My first one was in August of 2023. So
it was like your first week on the job, wasn't it?
It was my first week on the job. It was absolute craziness with the drought of 2023 and just catching up and meeting all my livestock folks who needed immediate assistance.
Yeah, it was trial by fire, really, huh?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I remember that week, and I feel like when you came on, it was just like, hey, welcome. And also we have a disaster of epic proportions right now that you got to get to work on.
Yeah.
So I remember doing a podcast with you and Andy, and it was kind of the way we introduced you to the Farm Bureau family. Mm-hmm. But it was also like, and what are you going to do about this to help our farmers? So,
yeah.
So welcome. It's been a year.
Put me on the spot.
How's the year been?
It's been phenomenal. I think I told you this a while back, but just for Josh to hear too. I've learned so much throughout the year, but I think my favorite thing at convention, all the puzzle pieces really came together. There was a video that you guys did for one of the YF&R awards sessions, and it was just them talking about why they wanted to come and stay within agriculture and their passion for it. And Andy was sitting next to me, and I got so emotional because I was like, oh my gosh, this is why. I hate to say that it took me all that time to realize, like, okay, this job is not just for me. It's not just for this organization, but it's for our farmers who are passionate about ag back at home. And I almost shed a tear. I was so happy I'm with this company, and I'm proud to stand for what we stand for as well.
Yeah, my not to put you in company with my mom, but she texts me every year as soon as that video is done playing. She's like, I'm crying. That was perfect.
It's so emotional. I don't know. I just get so happy and like proud to stand up for these guys.
What's really cool is that it's real for the farmers in that video. And if you're listening to this or watching this and you want to know what video we're talking about, I'll link it in the show notes so that you're not in the dark on that. So
yeah.
Anyway, so welcome. You've also finished your master's, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Not a student anymore.
Over. I know. Student. That's crazy.
All right, let's talk. Matthew, welcome. What is where are you coming from? How'd you get to Farm Bureau? Tell me about yourself a little bit.
So I have a background with sugarcane.
Okay.
I've kind of cut my teeth in agriculture, from a young age. I started off with 4-H, showing animals, mostly, sheep, had a couple cows throughout the years, but went to high school. I'm from Thibodaux, Louisiana, graduated from E.D. White, went to Nicholls State University, and kind of worked in ag, throughout my college career. Had various jobs working with sugarcane, clean seed cultivation, stuff like that. And
there's sugarcane in Thibodaux?
There's a lot of sugarcane in Thibodaux, a lot. Yeah. And, doing that and kind of worked into, field scouting and some consulting work. And then I actually went to the Caribbean for about a year to get a sugarcane plantation up and running for the purpose of making rum, which was a very cool project.
Are you still connected? Are you still connected?
Yeah,
I still
really?
have some connections. Yeah.
Very interesting.
It had a lot of issues to get up and running, but I'm glad to say that it's up and running, and they have rum that's aging right now. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, got to learn about the whole rum industry side of things, and Very, very cool time. But moving to the Caribbean was a tough move. But
I'm sure probably worth it now that you're looking back on that cool experience, huh?
yeah, it is.
Where did you go from the sugarcane world? That's not where you came from to get to Farm Bureau, right?
No, so after my career in the Caribbean, I came back and I worked as kind of like an entertainer and a guide for an oil company. Taking people out in the marsh, doing boat tours, bringing them hunting, bringing them fishing, things like that. And then I moved over to the NGO side of things as a sportsman outreach coordinator with Vanishing Paradise.
Okay.
And just getting sportsmen to help educate leaders on the issues of coastal land loss in Louisiana.
Yeah.
It's very dear to me, being a sportsman, a hunter, and an angler. Most people are in South Louisiana.
Yeah.
You look at license plate, what does it say on the bottom? Sportsman's Paradise. So that's what we are. We love to hunt, we love to fish, and to see our land lose at a unbelievable rate. I mean, it's like a football field every 100 minutes, dude. That's
crazy. I was about to say, I think at one point, was it a football field a day? Now it's multiple football fields a day?
So about every 100 minutes. That's
crazy.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Pretty safe to say it's a pretty big issue, pretty pressing issue for Louisiana. Not just Louisiana agriculture, but Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
Louisiana in general, and that kind of hits home, for everybody, not just sportsmen, but sportsmen see it the most, especially with all these restoration projects going on. We're the ones that go out there on the weekends, we're the ones that are fishing, some of these areas, or going hunt some of these areas. So we see the land loss happen with our own eyes, but then we see the gains and the benefits of restoring our coast as well.
Yeah.
Very touching subject. You get to meet a lot of people, traveling around Louisiana. So that was a good time. But then now I'm here at Farm Bureau, stepping back into agriculture.
Well, welcome back. I know today is Friday, August 30th. You've been here for now this is your 5th day on the job.
It is.
And you've already traveled the state. You went yesterday to a field day. How was that?
It was good. Yeah. It was the LSU Ag Center, the Research Center, the Sweet Potato Research Center.
Yeah.
It was their 75th anniversary. And an amazing field day. I got to learn a lot about sweet potatoes. But it's in Chase, Louisiana, which is close to Winsboro.
Yeah, it's my stomping ground.
Yeah. But I really got to learn a lot about sweet potatoes and how important, creating new varieties is for the industry. The industry has shrunk throughout the years, and I think it's somewhere between like 5,500 and 6,000 acres right now of actually, sweet potatoes planted. But just seeing these farmers and talking with them, they've had the drought that they had to deal with last year, so they had to implement, irrigation techniques, and they still made out pretty good. I think they're going to start harvesting sweet potatoes next week sometime, and it'll probably go through the end of October or so. But they're hoping for, a promising harvest.
One thing I learned when I did a story on the research station. Like I said, I'm from right there down the road, but until I had done a story a year or two ago there, I'd never been to the station ever, and I had no understanding of how valuable that station was and the research that happens there, and Don Labonte and the development of varieties that are going around the world. And I was like,
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure LSU, that station's #1 for sweet potato research in the world.
Yeah.
Not only the U.S.
In the Carolinas, they're calling daily or weekly over to LSU and saying, hey, how do we handle this? Or what do we need to do for this variety? And I was like, oh, wow. Even though it's shrinking maybe in Louisiana, that research station has it
has a large impact. Yeah.
Huge impact. Yeah.
Across the world, it's a big deal, and to see the industry kind of grow like that in Louisiana, shrink is, it's a little tough. I would like to see, more sweet potatoes being grown, but yeah, it is what it is. Oh, by the way, I did eat some sweet potato fries while we're there, and it was probably the best sweet potato fries I've ever had.
From Lamb Wesson?
Well, they had a caterer there.
Oh, nice.
So I don't know where they actually came from, but
there's a plant in Delhi. I'm sure they referenced it, but they spit out all kinds you can get right there at the grocery store, and they probably are serving walk-ons if I had to guess. Like they do variety, like not variety, but they do special packaging for restaurants and chains and stuff. And like, man.
And one funny thing that I mentioned, in the past few months, I've bought more sweet potatoes than I've ever had in my life. My son Michael, he's gonna He's turning 11 months. So next week he'll be 11 months old. And his favorite food is sweet potatoes.
What?
So yeah, so like I've always, eaten sweet potatoes, but when you have a baby and like that's their favorite food, you just buy more of it. And I'm starting to, open my eye and looking, in the stores and seeing what sweet potatoes I'm buying.
Yeah. They're my son, my 2-year-old, also is a big fan of sweet potatoes, but I wish he would have been a big fan of sweet potatoes than he was avocados. That's all he wanted at 11 months old. He just wanted an avocado. Now he wants guacamole, which he calls macamole. Really fun. All right, let's talk Madison. I know, Matthew, it's been a busy week for you, but it's been kind of a busy month for you.
Very much so.
I know. So today I wanted to talk about kind of some of the farm tours, which is kind of field day-ish, but not for farmers as much as it is for legislators and lawmakers and their staff. So let's talk about that. How has August been? How's the August recess been for you?
Yeah, I was about to say, I was going to start off with that. During August recess, Andy Brown, our department head, he's doing a phenomenal job. We're happy to have him as our head now, but he's done a great job of setting these hill visits up. But the whole goal is to ask Hill staffers, DC staffers, to come down to back home to Louisiana or back home to their state to actually get their boots on the ground on a farm, because unfortunately, even though they may work ag issues, a lot of them don't have an agriculture background within the industry whatsoever. So it means so much for them to actually get to meet the farmers face to face, actually listen to them versus our voices about what they're experiencing, and it really resonates with them. They leave the farm much more passionate about what we're passionate about and with a lot more knowledge to take back.
Yeah, me and you went to one of those tours. I know you probably did a couple of them, right?
Oh yeah, I did all three.
You did all three of them?
Mm-hmm.
But when we went, I interviewed David Smith, who was one of the farmers that we went and visited over in Beauregard Parish, and he said, "I feel like I'm being heard." In my interview, and I was like, "Yes,
that's the whole purpose."
And that's the whole purpose. And I was like, "Yes, that's exactly right. You are being heard, not just by us at State Farm Bureau staff." But beyond that, and I was just like, man, not that it's for PR, but like that's a great PR move on the parts of these staff, like for them to be there on the farm and let a couple farmers know that like, hey, we're hearing you. But that's not just that; they're actually being heard, and that's a cool. I don't know. That's just a cool aspect of this.
No, most of the time when I do these, I think of it from the Hill staffer, DC staffer standpoint, where they're coming down to learn, but it's good to hear that farmers obviously we want our farmers to benefit out of it some way, shape, or form, but most of the time they don't really say that much about it. They tell the staffers like what they're going through, their issues, and they thank us for coming down, but it's hit or miss whether or not they truly get something out of it other than an amazing connection. So I do want to do a shout out to Matthew Fontenot, Peyton Harvey, Whitney Lambright from Speaker of the House. That was that tour. We got to go see David Smith. He has an awesome corn and soybean operation. And then we got to see our president, Richard Fontenot's rice operation as well. And they just truly enjoyed every single minute of it.
Let's talk about that. We name these staffers. What's the value in? I mean, they're not the ones in the big fancy room casting a vote. Why do we need to make such an effort on these staffers that may or may not be in his office in a year or whatnot? Why do we it almost seems like we invest more in the staffers sometimes than we do
our
relationship with Johnson.
Our legislators heavily look to their staffers to hunt down any type of issues that's going on, educate themselves, and then relay that type of information to the congressional staffers. But they don't necessarily always have the time to do this. Yesterday we had a small business partners meeting with Speaker Mike Johnson in Ragley, Louisiana, and I was very fortunate to be able to go to that with President Fontenot, but it's not every day of the week that Speaker Johnson gets to come back to his home state. So we heavily rely on those staffers to communicate our issues to the legislators, just like they rely on them for that type of information.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's kind of interesting is sometimes we forget because Mike Johnson or Julia Letlow or even Bill Cassidy, they're the ones we see on TV, but really it's these 20, 30-year-old staffers that are up there that are the ones really peeling through the fine print and kind of getting down to it and working with Farm Bureau and the farmers and, other stakeholders to like really, I don't want to say make the law, but kind of craft like, hey, what are the needs and how can we address those? So having that experience on the farm is like, it's great for them.
Yeah, there's a lot more behind the scenes than what a lot of people are even aware of that goes on within each congressional office. I do also want to shout out to Leah McPherson from Majority Leader Scalise's office. You were unfortunately not able to go on that trip, but we did get to go down to Lafourche Parish and Terrebonne, see some cattle farmers and some sugarcane farmers. And the funny thing is, my cattle folks were in desperate need of assistance last year, and we thought our sugarcane folks would be too in that area, and they said it's the best crop that they've had in 10 years.
It was different. It was a different crop for sugarcane folks. Like different half of the state had different success last year because of the drought impacts. It was kind of nuts how drastic it was, how drastically different it was. But yeah, that's interesting that I get to go there. So let's back up and go big picture here. We had staffers from Congressman Johnson's office.
Yes.
Scalise's office.
Majority Leader Scalise. And then lastly, so some people are, you assume that a legislator has their own staff, his or her own staff, just like Julia Letlow has her staff, Mike Johnson has his staff. But there are also specific committees that have their own staff themselves because they're so impactful. So we also had Adele Bourne down from our Senate Ag Committee. She was amazing. She had a blast. But just a little more tidbit of information. Each committee also has their own professional staffers that hopefully come down and get to do the same thing that congressional staffers get to do.
So the congressional staffers, there are also, for like Speaker Johnson, he has speaker staff and congressional staff. And then there's also ag committee staff in Senate and House, right? So we had an ag staffer from from the Senate Ag. That's really cool. What was her visit like?
I'm trying to remember what
was that paired with the EPA?
Yes, that was the EPA trip. So there were about 15 people from the EPA regional office in Dallas who came to Louisiana to meet farmers and do sort of the same thing because a lot of them don't have an ag background. We put them on Michael Fruget's farm. It was the first time I got to meet him too. He has a phenomenal background story. Have you done a story with him?
I did a story
we can
on
reference.
It's on this week's show.
Awesome. So, he's awesome.
Yeah, Michael's great, and he's a great advocate for like his industry. Not that a lot of farmers are. A lot of farmers are, but he's really great at like articulating. He has his own brand, so he's had to get out in front of consumers and tell his story, and he's gotten really good at it. I think he went through Rice Leadership Program too, and he used to work in the industry. But I learned a lot about him riding the combine with him.
That's the best way.
Let's speak of riding the combine. Have you been in a combine before, Matthew?
Sure.
Of course you have. Of course you have.
Not a Rice one, but I am interested to see this. When is it coming out?
It'll be out today, actually. It should be on social media today. So when anybody's listening to this, I can drop some link.
Yeah, drop the link. I'd love to check it out.
It's gonna be fun. But what was interesting riding the combine when we went to Richard's farm and some of these staffers, I remember whenever I was there, getting to see them get in this combine that's $1 million machine, and they're probably in a rice field for the first time. I think actually all these staffers,
I think two of them. So Matthew is familiar with the rice industry. His last name is Font, though. I mean,
yeah, of course
you got to expect that.
I think from Brazil or something like that.
But Peyton and Whitney were somewhat familiar with it, but it was their first time seeing it like up front, close and personal, and getting on a piece of equipment.
They've all been around agriculture before, but never like on a farm or on a combine. And I remember seeing. I guess it was Whitney maybe, who I had a video of coming like back towards where the group was and in the combine, and she's videoing and she's just lit up and just so excited, and you can just see that experience. And I talked to actually Mr. Fontenot about it on the podcast a couple weeks ago about that experiential, nature of being on the farm, getting dirty, having the, husks everywhere and the dust everywhere, like. It's an experience, and you can't go back from that to DC without that staying with you.
Yeah, without feeling at least a little bit more passionate.
Yeah. I interviewed Andy for that story because I realized whenever I got back, I didn't interview you out in the field because we were both chasing combines in the group. But I interviewed Andy about the value of that, and he said not many folks go to DC and talk about their problems, talk about their struggles, talk about their needs, and then turn around and invite the staff or the congressional, the congressman or woman to see where those struggles and needs are. And I'm sure you probably actually in your past in the coastal work saw the same thing. You can talk all day about, yeah, we're losing the football field every 100 minutes, but until they come down and see where a tree used to be, where land used to be, it doesn't quite resonate, right?
Correct. Yeah, and that's the thing about seeing it with your own eyes. You can read about it, hear about it, and it's so, but the big impact is get in the boat, and I had this one of our guys that would bring people out on tours, and he was a sportsman, loved to duck hunt, loved to fish, and he has an open invite. He wants to bring everybody. You have to go see this. It's an area called Neptune Pass. That's an open channel off the Mississippi River that's actually building land on the east side of the river, and he brings people out there for tours all the time.
Where's that at?
So it's like next to Buras on the other side of the river right there.
Okay.
And
okay.
It's building land, so it's
Yeah.
the river, all the sediment that travels down the river has potential to build land that you can walk on. And since it's happening right now. You can look
One
up
of
all
the
the
very
news
few
stories.
places that does that within
Yeah.
our state.
Well, it's better than wasting the sediment that's flowing down the
fall off
the
and
shelf. Yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah. So to bring people out there and to hop out in the marsh, I was from Lafourche Parish, hunted in Lafourche, Terrebonne Parish, and if you hop out of the boat in the marsh, you sink through the floats off. Where over there, it's different. You hop out, you can almost break your ankles in the mud so hard. It's solid. And just seeing the potential, to do all these restoration projects and build better storm protection for Louisiana it's key.
That's one thing that's like, get out of the boat, see it, and experience that. Same with these people who are going to be helping craft a farm bill or help support certain aspects of a farm bill. Maybe like that's the current thing on everybody's radar.
Yeah.
They can then say, oh, that's why XYZ acronym matters to these farmers. That's why this
Farm
program
programs.
matters to these farmers, because I've seen it now. I've seen the retention of the water issues or the conservation aspects of what's going on their farm. I've put my hands in it, and that's huge. So anyways, anything what else about these tours stood out to you? What have you heard? Have you heard back? Even just there in the field, you were standing next to and visiting with the staffers way more than I was, because I was running around with the camera. What did you hear from them?
I think they were just more amazed than anything at the lack of current assistance with the lack of a farm bill not being passed right now. Again, them just being there in person offers them firsthand experience to see, oh, well, let me put my feet in the farmer's shoes for once and put myself in their situation. Dear God, they need so much help right now, especially for a 2025 crop year, with assistance from insurance companies not wanting to follow through with that, with just the current monetary issues within our economy.
Banks right now that say, I don't know if I can keep.
Yeah, I don't know if I can keep giving you money if I'm not getting anything back out of it. I think the most important part of it all is just for them to be able to see and resonate and put themselves again in the farmer's shoes, to be able to like, oh, well, they talk about this all the time. I hear it all the time around the hill from different staffers from different state farm bureaus, but I never realized how true it was until I'm here on the farm and the farmers are actually complaining about the same thing, but maybe explaining it a little bit better, because they do have to deal with that on a daily basis.
Yeah. Well, for you, I guess what would you say, and I know we have great leaders throughout Farm Bureau. We talked about Michael Frugier. We talked about Richard Fontenot and David Smith. And I know there are some cattle farmers and sugarcane farmers that also open their doors to those farmers who are, one, willing to tell their story and do open their doors. Obviously you have a thank you for them, but like, how important is it for them to be the ones to do that and not us as staff?
Again, I can't thank those farmers enough. Yeah, there were a few cattle farmers. Shout out to Don Robichaux and Paul Dufresne in Lafourche Parish. They were the cattle farmers that Leah McPherson from Majority Leader Scalise's office got to meet. They were so nervous. These are some of our brand new Farm Bureau member leaders who want to be more involved. I was happy to get to bring Leah there. They were so nervous to bring her there. They were like, well, the farm's not clean and da-da-da-da. I said, they don't care. This is your way of life. They're not here to inspect to see if everything's prim and proper. what is important, most important, is for you to tell your story, for you to actually be able to voice your issues, because it doesn't mean anything from me who sits here in an office or gets to go out on the farm. It means everything for you, the actual farmer. That's your bank statements that hurt at the end of the day. That's your farm that's hurt at the end of the day. If the farm bill doesn't get passed, or if policy doesn't help the farmer at the end of the day. It's not as believable coming from me.
Correct. And I think that's one thing that really turned me on about this job is uplifting that voice of Louisiana agriculture. And these are our people. This is our home. This is what we do. We need food. That's what the bottom line is. We are producers, and we love our farms. And to be a part of that and to uplift these voices and have their voices heard, not only on the state level, but on the national level, is something that's very important, especially getting policy reform and getting things done. Things like the Farm Bill. This is very important for it. And that's one thing that I really like about this job and want to get more involved with.
Yeah, it's a really tough job when you have to go out and work with farmers every day, kind of the salt of the earth type people. That's my favorite thing of the job. I was actually I was out Monday and Tuesday in the field, and I was just like, man, there are worse ways to spend a couple of days in the office.
Oh, yeah.
In the office. So I know y'all will experience that, and y'all do experience that. You've already gotten to experience that this week. But anyways, guys, thank y'all for what you do, for the policy work that y'all do, for the relationships y'all help build and strengthen between the farmer and our congressional staff, and the policy work that y'all are doing. So thank y'all. If you're listening and want to learn more about some of these things we've talked about, let's find some links. Check out the show notes. I'll have them below the video on YouTube as well. Subscribe. Share this episode with a friend if you have a friend that wants to learn more about the policy work that we're doing and the relationships that we're helping build with our congressional staff and congressional offices. That work is important, but it's not as important to us as it is to our farmers that we represent. So thanks for listening. We'll see you again right here next time on the Louisiana Farm Bureau podcast.